Let's talk about the game that I think everyone is the most excited for. It's the Monday Night Showdown. Get hype. It's the Ravens versus the Chiefs.
This is going to be awesome.
I want to talk about, before we get into some of the fantasy values here, I think it's going to be positive all across the board because the matchup is just great on both sides. But my prediction for this game script is going to be kind of what the Chiefs have shown us multiple times, whether it was the end of last year in the playoffs and a little bit so far to start this season, which is the Ravens defense is going to be able to stifle the Chiefs a little bit earlier on. They're going to get off to a slow start. Baltimore is going to be able to move the ball, put up some points, and then Chiefs go on that comeback trail at the end of the game. We'll see if they end up being able to pull it off like they have a million times, it feels like already. But regardless, what that means is there's fantasy value all around. How do you see this game script going?
Man, it's tough to say. The Ravens defense is pretty strong, but if there's anyone that is going to be able to see right through them, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. You know, the over-under is 54.5, so Vegas expects points. The Ravens are favored in this one. It is at the bank in Baltimore. Man, I think it's going to be competitive throughout. I think in the past we've seen that narrative you talked about of like one team jumping ahead, normally the Ravens, and the Chiefs coming back. I think this time we might just see a competitive game throughout. I would love it just to be back and forth, both teams taking shots at each other, being able to keep it balanced on the ground through the air. That's what I expect in this one. I expect it to be an incredibly competitive game. I have the Ravens to come out on top. Little bit of a homer pick there. I do live in Baltimore, love Lamar Jackson, but I would love to see Lamar finally, take one home here against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
So let's talk about some of the fantasy assets in this game. Lamar Jackson, no question, of course you're starting him. What I have loved to see from Lamar, though, is he has a 2.1 pass to run ratio. So he's been passing a little bit more so far this year. I know last week's against the Texans at home sucked because of the game script. Baltimore's defense was great. The rushing was going well. They really didn't need Lamar Jackson to pass. He didn't go vertical really at all, which we saw with rough outings from Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown. I do expect that to change against Kansas City. If Kansas City's putting up points, and I think even just the game plan from Harbaugh is going to be aggressive because they know they're going to need to. I reviewed in my Hollywood Brown film room before the draft. Go check that out on our YouTube channel if you have not already. But I broke down a little bit of this game, went through all the plays that Hollywood Brown and Lamar Jackson had, and something I noticed last time that these two played in Week 3 in 2019 was that Hollywood Brown saw 9 targets, 6 of which were thrown 15 yards or more downfield. So the downfield opportunities I think are going to be there for Hollywood Brown. He's an instant auto start for me. I'm taking his upside, plugging him in my lineup. I saw a stack here before we jumped on. Somebody on Twitter was hitting us up with a start-sit question, and they had Mike Evans and Hollywood Brown in as their wide receiver group. I was like, man, I love your lineup. That's a great stack to have. So I'm all over Hollywood Brown and Lamar Jackson in this game. On the backfield for the Ravens, I think Ingram is a flex option. Are you willing to plug in J.K. Dobbins?
No, I mean, I'm with you. Lamar, auto start. I think Hollywood Brown in this game should be high volume, should be some passing volume, auto start. And I'm willing to start Ingram as a desperation flex or an RB2 if you have to. It's all about, can he get into the end zone? And, I think, if I have to pick between Ingram, Gus Edwards, and Dobbins, which one's going to get the touchdown? I'm still going to put my chips on Ingram. And no, I'm not starting J.K. Dobbins. I know he had the 2 touchdowns there in Week 1, but last week against the Texans, Steph, this is a game the Ravens had in control. This is a game where with a rookie running back, you would expect a game you have in control. Let's get this rookie some reps. Let's save the tread on Mark Ingram's tires. Yeah, J.K. Dobbins saw 2 carries. 1 reception and 2 carries in this game. That's just not going to cut it. 3 touches. I don't care how good the offense is. It's not going to get it done. Now, I will say one of those carries for Dobbins went for 44 yards.
Looks good.
I'm not sold yet on J.K. Dobbins. I mean, we saw Gus Edwards get 10 carries last week, and those were not just burning out the clock carries. That's when the game mattered. 10 carries from Edwards, 9 from Ingram, 2 from Dobbins. With Lamar Jackson as a runner as well, I'm just not confident enough that the volume is going to be there for Dobbins. And without a touchdown, I just don't think he's going to be a good play.
J.K. Dobbins, he's a desperation flex, I would say. He had low usage, like you said, in Week 2. Ingram was the guy there. and has seen a 38% snap share so far this season. Only 1 target, only 2 red zone touches. What's interesting there is that Mark Ingram is actually 14th amongst running backs in red zone touches, with 6 of them through 2 weeks. So the goal line back really does look like Ingram, even though Dobbins did have those 2 touchdowns in week 1.
Yep.
And Ingram is just barely outsnapping him by about 2%. We'll take that on a team that runs the 5th most run plays per game.
Yeah, Steph, week 1 was dangerous with Dobbins because he did have the 2 touchdowns, but just 7 carries in that game, 3.1 yards per carry. Like, it's not his time yet, and his time will come. He should get ramped up as the season goes on, and certainly into the future. But the time is not now for J.K. Dobbins. You want to leave him on your bench and see what you have later on. But before we move on to the Chiefs, Steph, Mark Andrews auto start. I know he had a down game last week. I'm plugging him in my lineup everywhere if I have him. Are you with me?
Oh yeah. He's one of the like, even with that down week, he still, to me, has the upside to be a tight end 1 every single week. So I'm totally plugging him in. So now let's talk about the Chiefs.
It's pretty simple in Kansas City.
It really is. I mean, everybody that you have is an auto start. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. He's going to do Mahomes things. If he can't get it done through the air, somehow he's going to find a way to put up 60 rushing yards one way or another, just like last week. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the usage was a little bit sketchy last week. I think that was a little bit more the game script. But we did see the target volume increase. After 2 targets for CEH in week 1 against Houston, he had 8 against the Chargers last week, caught 6 of them for 32 yards. So that little PPR bump, I think once we see everything kind of come together, where the snaps are there, the touchdown volume is there, and the receptions are there, that's where we're going to get the CEH that we all want, that you drafted him to be. Look, don't overvalue a down week and a tough game script. A tough matchup, honestly. The Chargers' front 7 has looked great.
Chargers defense has been great.
They really have been. So plug CEH in here, man. He's going to dominate. I would not be surprised at all if he had 2 touchdowns.
Darrell Williams is banged up as well. We saw Darrell Williams didn't get a single carry last week. Darwin Thompson had 4. So if Darwin Thompson is the only available back behind CEH, expect a ton of volume for him in this game. It's pretty simple, Steph, and it's the only team, I think, in the entire NFL that could actually have the number 1 fantasy player at every single position in the same week. Like, I could see Mahomes, CEH, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce all being number 1 at their position on any given week, and those are the 4 guys that you're plugging in. Tyreek, we'll talk about it. Receivers, he's an auto start. Behind him, you got Sammy Watkins, who is in the concussion protocol. You've got Demarcus Robinson, Mecole Hardman. I'm avoiding those guys, Steph, all 3 of them. Tyreek Hill's obviously in your lineup, but you taking the bait on any of those other 3 guys?
The only situation that I'm actually in right now in a league is one where I have Devontae Adams, who plays Sunday night. This is a very deep league. Don't really have a ton of options, and I got to figure out, with Adams potentially being a game-time decision, if he's out, you got to have some backup options. So you want guys that are also going to be in that Sunday night game. Would love to have Traquan Smith there as an option on the Saints side of the ball that I could plug in if Adams is out. But in a worst-case scenario, I don't mind taking a flyer on Demarcus Robinson if you are an Adams owner and he's called out of the game last minute. That's the only thing I'll throw out there. But no, all in all, it's Tyreek and nobody else.
I like that a lot because, we're in a deep league, and in our league, like Lazard, MVS, Traquan, Emmanuel Sanders, all those, Sammy Watkins, all those guys are already rostered. So the only option for you was, Mecole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson, or just pivot and go somewhere else if we don't hear about Adams until, closer up to the game time. So look, listen to that advice. If you're in a deeper league, go check your waiver wire if you've got a bench spot available. Or if you don't have a bench spot available, but you have an IR spot when someone's ruled out, just take it up to game time. If Adams is ruled out, move him to that IR spot, scoop up Demarcus Robinson or Mecole Hardman if you really want to go deep, but I would probably prefer Robinson there. I'm going to just throw him into your lineup. But Steph, last guy in this game, then we'll get into our starts of the week. Travis Kelce, it's an auto start. Not much else to say. Harrison Butker, auto start.
Oh, yeah. If you're in a league with kickers, first off, shame on you. But second off, start Harrison Butker.